Breakdown, Glenn, we have some really disgusting news out of the Trump administration in terms of one of the January 6th insurrectionists and the honor that was bestowed onto them. Can you explain what just happened?
Brian, disgusting is perhaps the nicest thing you can say about it. So Ashley Babbitt, who was a rioter, who was an insurrectionist, who committed crimes, both local and federal, and we all saw it on videotape. What did she do? Well, she was part of the angry mob that was attacking the Capitol and trying to get after the legislators to stop the certification of the results of the presidential election on January 6, 2021. And we see her trying to climb through a busted window of barricaded doors to get into the Speaker's lobby as members of Congress were running for their lives, being evacuated from the U.S. Capitol. And as she tried to get through that broken window, she was shot. She was killed. Up until now, Brian, the U.S. Air Force, she was an Air Force veteran. The U.S. Air Force did the right thing. They denied her military honors as part of her funeral service. Well, today we learned that the Air Force has changed course, undoubtedly, at the prompting, perhaps even the insistence of Donald Trump. They will now give Ashley Babbitt, an insurrectionist, full military honors. You know, I was active duty Army for 6.5 years. This is a dishonor of every single military member. Every member took an oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. On January 6th, Ashley Babbitt was a domestic enemy of the United States, trying to fight, to stop the certification, stop the steal, as Donald Trump put it, in a very real way, just bring democracy to a screeching halt, if not overthrow it entirely. And the United States military, the Air Force, is now going to honor her, give her full military honors. That is disgusting, and that word is just for openers.
Glenn, can you contrast this with what the administration is doing to the folks who actually do deserve those honors from January 6th?
You know, Brian, we have heroes who, were at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. And Ashley Babbitt is not one of them, nor should she be viewed as a martyr. She was committing crimes, endangering the lives of everybody in the U.S. Capitol that day at the time that she was unfortunately shot and killed. By the way, the officer who killed her was fully cleared of any wrongdoing by the police, by the Capitol Police and others. To compare and contrast, we have 4 police officers who have, by and large, become the face of law enforcement heroism at the Capitol on January 6th. They are Harry Dunn, Mike Fanone, Aquilino Gonell, and Daniel Hodges. These are the men who are the heroes of the January 6th Capitol attack. Of course, what has Donald Trump done? Well, he has pardoned the more than 1,000 insurrectionists, the rioters, many of whom who assaulted, who beat damn near to death police officers in their loyalty to Donald Trump, in their allegiance to his commands to go to the Capitol and fight like hell, or you won't have a country anymore. And, they were rewarded, richly rewarded by Donald Trump after years of law enforcement efforts, the FBI, local police, the prosecutors in Washington, D.C., and indeed, Brian, prosecutors that were brought from federal U.S. attorneys' offices all around the country to do a detail, temporary duty at the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office. They prosecuted these insurrectionists one after another for the crimes they committed. Indeed, the crimes that we saw them commit on video that day. They were held accountable. Many of them were sent to prison for what they did. And Donald Trump rewarded them all with pardons, sort of signaling that they did nothing wrong. Were the officers at fault as they were getting beaten damn near to death by Donald Trump's angry mob? And let me kind of hone into one person in particular. When we want to compare and contrast what happened today with Ashley Babbitt as compared to the actual heroes of January 6th, law enforcement, I had Daniel Hodges, one of the 4, I call them the horsemen of democracy, protecting the Capitol that day. I had Daniel Hodges here in my studio just outside of Washington, D.C. I have now known him for years. He's become a friend. And I was interviewing him about the fact that he is still an active police officer policing and patrolling the streets of Washington, D.C. He's now having to contend with National Guardsmen who have no police responsibilities. And you know what those National Guard men and women are doing today, Brian? Among other things, they're laying mulch and using weed whackers. They're basically glorified landscapers because they have no actual mission in Washington, D.C. So this is something that Daniel Hodges has to contend with every day. And as he was here, the news broke about Ashley Babbitt being given full military honors, whereas, you know, the people who attacked him, beat him, there's an infamous, iconic photo of him having his head damn near crushed indoors as he was trying to hold the line, not let the insurrectionists into the Capitol to get after the members of Congress and stop the certification. And you know what Daniel Hodges is involved in right now? We talked about this today. He had to sue Congress, he and another officer, Harry Dunn, because in 2022, members of Congress, when, you know, they were still sort of begrudgingly willing to acknowledge the truth of what happened at the Capitol on January 6th, passed a law. That law requires that there be a plaque honoring the heroic officers on the Capitol on January 6th, and the law provides it must be put up and displayed in the U.S. Capitol. But MAGA Mike Johnson has it tucked away in a basement corner somewhere in the Capitol, refusing to display it in violation of federal law. So just to get the simple recognition that the law allows, Daniel Hodges and Harry Dunn are suing the Congress. Technically, the architect of the Capitol is who they had to bring the suit against, just to get the recognition that the law requires them to receive. We are living in the legal upside down. Brian, we are living in the moral upside down. We are living in the military upside down. And we are going to have to do something to right this American ship.
Glenn, I don't want to get accused of focusing on a very small issue here. And the reality is that the Ashley Babbitt of it all does not impact most people in this country. And so I want to use this opportunity while we've got a captive audience here to talk about something that I think does impact the vast majority of this country. And so what would you say to folks in states across the country who have not seen militaries deployed into their state, but where Trump has promised to do so? So I'm talking about people other than LA, other than DC, but where they have cities in their states that are ripe for Trump to, go make good on his promises and send them in. What do you say to those people who might not think that this is such a big deal because it hasn't happened yet to them?
Yeah, what a great topic to take on. Brian, I would tell those people, don't wait until fascism comes to your backyard.
Yeah. Yes.
Stand up for your friends and your neighbors in other states. Stand up for people you don't even know who are suffering under the fascism creep that has come to Washington, D.C., that was out in L.A., that it looks like may soon come to Chicago. Brian, it's going to come to everybody. And don't sit back and say, well, it's not in my state, it's not in my city, it's not in my town yet, and maybe it won't come here. Listen, it will come here. And that's why it is time for everybody to stand up, speak out, stay strong, march, rally, protest, scream at the top of your lungs, exercise your First Amendment rights of free speech. When you're out there, don't assault officers by throwing sandwiches or doing anything else. That's not a joke. That is deadly serious. But they can't stop you from exercising your First Amendment rights to speak out against an aspiring dictator who is trying to install fascism in the United States.
And finally, Glenn, let's finish off with this, and I think this is an appropriate way to finish given what we just spoke about. There is an ongoing lawsuit right now in California where Gavin Newsom and the California Democrats are suing the Trump administration for having deployed the military into Los Angeles. Can you talk about the significance of that case as it relates to the rest of the cities across the country? Because you and I have spoken at length about the dangers that could be posed if Trump gets the green light in LA and And all of a sudden, he's got carte blanche, as far as he's concerned, to deploy the military into Philadelphia and Milwaukee and Detroit and Atlanta and all these other Democratic strongholds in swing states where the votes are very important for Democrats, but where Trump can, carry out some plan that he tried to carry out in 2020, like seizing the voting machines, for example. So very focused on what he would be able to do if he's got the military, got his boots on the ground, so to speak, with these deployments into these swing states. So what significance does the fight that's happening in California have as it relates to the rest of the country?
Brian, it's a big deal, and it will set important precedent. We are still waiting for the trial court judge to issue his ruling. The trial has been conducted on whether Donald Trump had the lawful authority to, seize control of the California State Guard. What is clear, and it was clear from the minute Donald Trump did it, is he violated the law in the process. One, he didn't have a reason to do it, but two, he didn't do it through the governor's office, which is required. He basically just acted like the dictator he so desperately wants to become. So, once we get a trial court ruling from this trial that was just completed in recent days, that will be important atmospheric precedent for all of the other states when it comes to what Donald Trump can and can't do lawfully, when it comes to seizing control of state National Guard troops, when it comes to deploying active duty military to American cities and American streets. Of course, Brian, a couple of things that we have to acknowledge. One, if Donald Trump loses, he will appeal it. And he will try to get the court to put a stay, a pause in place, regardless of whatever it is that the trial court rules, if he doesn't like it. But then even more fundamentally, Brian, at least that is sort of an acceptable way to move a case through the court system. He just might defy the court rulings, the court orders, and just go ahead and do what he wants to do. And Brian, this may be counterintuitive, but I'm almost rooting for Donald Trump to begin to more openly and more frequently and more flagrantly defy court orders, violate federal law, violate the Constitution, do it all at once, ratchet up the abuses, because there's one thing we know. Donald Trump is not going to ratchet back the abuses. And rather than do it slowly and incrementally, to your very point a few minutes ago, so if you only do it a little bit here, a little bit there, what are you doing? You're desensitizing everybody to it.
Yep.
And it's the creep. And there is no one galvanizing moment when we can all stand up and say, fuck fascism. We're not going to accept it here. So I almost want Donald Trump, counterintuitive though it may seem, to do the abuses all at once, because I think that may help galvanize opposition, and it may get the American people to the point where we need to be. We need to get out in the millions, because we're bigger, we're stronger, we're greater in number than the people who want to destroy American democracy. So let's go. Bring it on.
Could not think of a better place to leave off. With that said, for those who are watching, please support the invaluable work and the voice of Glenn Kirshner. I'm going to put his link right here on the screen. And of course, if you're not yet subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to this one as well. Subscribing to both of our channels is a great way to support our work, completely free, and a great way to support independent media. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.